Welcome to Relation EQ. I'm Brian Sims, your host today. And today we have the opportunity to visit with Bert Sorin, who is the CEO of Sorinex exercise equipment. And we love having him in the studio today. And we're excited to learn some things about generational businesses. So thank you for joining us today. Well, today we're going to visit with Bert Sorin. Bert, welcome. Thanks for coming from South Carolina.
Thank you for having me, Brian. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. This is kind of the first episode I've done like this where I've have an interest in generational businesses, basically family business. And, you know, I think there's something special about that. And so whenever I see somebody that has, you know, a second, third, fourth, and even fifth generation business, it really makes me think about, you know, the relationships in that can be really tricky sometimes. You know, mixing family and business, sometimes
it's about as
tough.
Complicated as it gets at times.
Yeah. So anyway, would you just tell our audience just a little bit about your business, what it is, what you do?
Sure. My name is Bert Sorin. I'm owner and CEO of Sorinex exercise equipment. We've been around 46 years. My dad, Richard, started it in 1980. Okay. So, you know, some people say, gosh, you know, it's so awesome that you started Sorinex. I'm like, guys, I'm 49 years old. I didn't start it when I was 3.5. Like, I appreciate
tough,
I appreciate the vote of confidence. But no, so my dad, Richard, he started it. And it was never meant to be truly like a business, or especially a very successful or world-known business. So we're in the exercise equipment business, as I said, but he was always a strength athlete. He was a coach, but he always had a panache for designing, and it was a little bit of a Da Vinci there. He was always thinking, always tinkering, and so it was pretty streamlined idea that I love strength training. The equipment that's available on the market is not big enough, strong enough, adjustable enough, safe enough to what I would prefer, and I think I could do it better. It was simple as that. A lot of how you know, mom and pop businesses start, and it was never started at the entrepreneurial spirit of I'm going to go take over and make a lot of money or anything like that. As he puts it, he wanted to have some relevancy in the world that he enjoyed and he respected, which was the strength world. Okay. And he believed he could do it better. So we started in our carport in 1980, and I laugh and I say, you know, garages were for rich people. We had carports. So there's a little bit of shade, and so he started building something, and the business idea was, you know, the master business plan was sell a piece of equipment, take half the money, go down to man, tool, and supply, buy another piece of equipment that he would need, and his next door neighbor was pretty handy, so he would literally go over to his house and ask Randy, so, okay, well, what should I buy now? He goes, well, go buy a porta-band. He goes, okay. And so we'd sell something, take half the money, go down, buy that, and it just grew very, very slowly. And at first, he was a coach and a PE teacher, and so he was building things for the school that didn't have money. And so they said, well, Richard could do it. So he was pretty handy. So he would build equipment, and then it became local churches and local YMCA's and things in that Columbia, South Carolina area. Again, never thought to be a successful or a world-named business.
Yeah.
But it kept growing, and so he did that for many years, and of course I grew up around it. Basically, I just grew up knowing that Dad's real stressed. He's always coming home dirty and tired, and we make some big heavy stuff that looks neat. That was kind of growing up what I saw. And as you get a little bit more self-aware of what the situation contextually is around the house, you realize, hey, you know, sometimes we live and die by these jobs that he wins, and some days are really great and some days are really not great. And then as I grew in my athletic career and became more and more interested in strength and conditioning, I got more of an in-depth look on what this business and this industry could have on my life. And, you know, fast forward, I come out of college as a strength and conditioning or a strength athlete, which was a hammer throw, which was a track and field event. So half my life was spent in the weight room. So I ended up joining him full time in 1999, and you know, doing that was never again, was never to take over the strength world. And I guess I would kind of jump to the end of it. We have built what I would consider a world-renowned brand. The majority of the NFL, the majority of college football, a lot of sports, whether elite military organizations, we've been honored enough to be able to work with. So extremely blessed, but I still pinch myself at times going, wow, we get to do this. Like something we always thought would be cool and would be held in high regard. But where it started was just like most men want to know, am I good enough? My dad wanted to say, are my ideas good enough to be relevant within the strength community? Or I love this community and this industry. I think I could add something valuable to the table. I want to bring something to the table, and maybe I'll even get a seat at the table. And that's where it started. And so that's kind of what we are and who we are.
So how old were you when you actually started working for your dad?
My first job there, I was 14 or 15, and that was my first summer job there. And I was just thrown right into the shop, and I was cutting steel and drilling and grinding and chipping BBs off weld, and just the jobs that have to be done, but they're dirty and they're hot. And all my friends had cool jobs at the mall and, and being lifeguards and fun stuff. And then I was, at work by 7 a.m., which, as a 15-year-old kid is really early in the summertime.
Yeah.
And, working alongside men and, and kind of learning that cadence of life, hey, here's your lunch break and you better be back in time. And like, here's how this goes. And we got this big job coming through and you're going to work late tonight. And you come home burned and cut and dirty. And first day I came home, I was so dirty because I didn't know how to pick up steel yet, because steel dirt gets all everything, and I was just black from head to toe. And I just came home, and my mom made me get undressed in the driveway and spray off all my clothes before I could even get in the house. She's like, "You are ridiculously dirty. Like, this is crazy." And I just couldn't believe it. And then these men were doing. Then what I realized by the end of the summer was, these guys are doing this every day, day in, day out, and maybe for their entire life. And so it brought me a realization of what really hard work is, and to some people, like, that is their career, that is their career path.
Yeah.
And so it created a lot of respect that I had for those men, that they show up every day and do a really hard job.
So how was your attitude as a 14-year-old working those kind of hours?
There's times where you get a little hot, a little frustrated, but what I really enjoyed was the other men who'd seen me grow up as a little kid. Yeah. And when I'd come in the shop and mess around with Pops, and then, I'm working alongside of them, and then I started earning their respect as I wasn't just the boss's kid, that, I was invited to go to lunch with them. I was, and I would be in on jokes with them, and, just all that, like, man building stuff. Mm-hmm. And I never forget, the foreman, Dave Smigelski, came up to me at the end of the summer, and he told me, he shook my hand, looked me in the eye, and I know Dave since I was born. And he goes, "You made a difference this summer. We needed you this summer, and you did it." And
wow.
It was like, for another man to tell you, like, it wasn't a freebie. You weren't just paid to just be around. And that, kind of like my dad, he wanted to be relevant, he wanted to be valuable. I was able to experience that in a small level of realizing that my efforts were actually seen in the company, and my dad was proud of me because his number one man says, "No, like, Bert did a good job. We needed him."
Wow.
So that was something that built confidence. And there was days that, you're still a 15-year-old kid, so you're mad that you're there, and you're getting the crap jobs and having to chip BBs and do all this, getting burned and all that. But it's fine.
You were earning your stripes.
We were earning our stripes. I mean, our water jug, it's funny to think about, like, we didn't have a water fountain. We had one refrigerator that was, like, probably from the 1940s. And we had 1 gallon milk jugs that I went up to the gas station, and in the hose in the parking lot, I filled them up every day.
With hose water?
Hose water.
No, I thought that kills you now.
Out of the gas station. Just in the parking lot, like the free water on the side of the gas station. Filled them up, no cap on them, drove them back down, put them in the refrigerator, and they just sat in the refrigerator, and that's what all of us drank. There was no cups. Everyone just, boom, hit it, put it right back in. Next guy, boom, and I look, I'm like, well,
None of you died from it.
yeah, none of us died from it, and it was just like, I think at one point he's like, don't dare drink the water out of the tap. And I'm like, okay, got it. I don't know what that means, but okay, and I look back, but we were all just okay with it. Like, it was like,
Yeah.
you look now and it was, oh my gosh, that's crazy. You wouldn't
Yeah.
think of that. But just that everyone had the idea that we wanted to succeed, we wanted to win, we knew it was going to be hard, and all the pleasantries were kind of removed of just like, yeah, it's really hot. Yeah, it's really dirty. Yeah, we all drink out of the same water jug that's filled with gas station water. Okay, we're
Yeah.
trying to do something for the university of whoever, and we're fighting for these jobs, and we're all a team. It was only 7 or 8 of us, but
Yeah.
we're a team, and like, we wanted to take on the world foolishly.
So at this point, your dad's in the business 10, 11 years.
Yeah, so in 1980, so I was 93, that's 12, 13
13
years, yeah.
So he was now starting to break into universities.
Yes.
And
So,
yeah, that's,
yeah, so we had done, I think in 86 or 87, University of Kentucky, they had like a very large custom weight room, and that's kind of what we're known for, is building custom high-end stuff. So we built an amazing room there, which almost broke us. Well, it should have broken us on multitude of fronts. It's a pretty hairy story, but we were able to stay alive. I wouldn't say we thrived, but we survived.
yeah.
And that was a little bit of a flag in the sand to the industry. We weren't sure the front runners by any means, but it was like, okay, that Sorin equipment and that Richard Sorin guy, like, he does really good stuff. And, he may not be around next year, but he does really good stuff. And he'll do what he says he'll do. And so that's kind of what that culture was built upon. You always have to do what you said you're going to do, and quitting is not an option. And, that's just how it is. There is no option.
Yeah. It's interesting. You just talking about how when you were 14 and how all the guys in the shop looked at the job like, yeah, this is hard, but we're a team and we're going to do this. And just talking to you over the last few days, we've had an opportunity. It sounds like that culture is very much alive now.
Yes. My dad built that culture in heavily, and he would work alongside the men. For University of Kentucky, I'm wanting to say they worked 20-hour days for 10 straight days leading up to it. And his foreman, Pops told me, his foreman, Dave, he said halfway through the install at University of Kentucky, he said he just hit the wall and slid down the wall, and he says, Cap, I can't go no more. I'm done. He goes, I'm not quitting, but I can't move. I can't go. And everyone's like, gotcha, Dave. And everyone just kept going. But, the stress and everything, like, he literally worked himself to the exhaustion point that his body would not go. And he laid down for an hour or so and then got back up, dusted off, and we finished the job.
Took a swig out of the jug.
Yeah, took a swig out of the jug. But that was the type of men that were there. Like, there was no option it was a no-fail mission. And that was because they knew that my dad would do it. They knew that Dave would do it. They knew everyone was on that line. And thankfully we've been able to keep that idea and ideal, whether it's the sales, whether it's management, whether it's the shop team. And, now everyone, truth be told, not everyone carries that same, fire in their belly.
Yeah.
You don't have 200 employees that are all that type, but you have enough of them.
Yeah.
And when they realize that, they might fly to Las Vegas to put in the UFC's new weight room, and the trucks are late, and they end up pulling a 32-hour day to make sure it's ready in time for the grand opening, and no one complains, and they just get it figured out, and something goes wrong, and they yank something out, and they take it in the parking lot, and they cut it, and then they take it to a local powder coat place, and they get it, and they have it back in, and 6 a.m. the next morning, everything's buttoned up, and people just solve problems.
Yeah.
Like, those are the people that you go, okay, we could go to war together.
And those are the kind of people that inspire those who maybe don't care as much.
Exactly, and they become heroes within the company because people
Yeah.
go, I've seen you go. I've seen what you'll do for this, and you'll do it not only for the company, but you'll do it for the guys and gals beside you, and that's where that really builds, like that phalanx where the man to the right and the left of you, if they know that you're there with them, they'll pull off some amazing things. But if they know that you're there for the gravy and not the work, then you lose them quick.
Yeah. I can't remember whose quote this is, but talking about culture eats strategy for lunch.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that when you have those kind of people who they're bought in, they've drunk the Kool-Aid.
Sure.
And
Sure.
You just can't replace that.
Yeah, it's almost if you're dumb enough not to stop, you still win.
Yeah.
Like that's the cool thing. It's like, hey, what we've lacked at times in technical aspects and things like that, tyranny of will and just a lot of effort will get you pretty darn far. And then as you're building that plane while you're flying it,
Yeah.
you start learning how to fly pretty well.
Yeah.
And you start learning how to build a better plane. But it's always built upon people that have that mindset and then truly care about the folks to the right and the left of them. And they truly care, what am I sending down the line? If I'm a welder, what product am I sending to powder coat? And if they don't take responsibility to realize that they want to do a good job for that next person to be able to do a good job.
Yeah.
And then conversely, if that person in welding upstream from them doesn't, how does that person downstream react? Do they react with a highly negative finger pointing, or is it constructive criticism? Hey, we're on the same team. Make sure you throw that ball a little bit differently to me and I'll catch it. We all
Yeah.
good. And that's where building that culture of a candid conversation and a curious conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Curious as in, I'm actually interested in what you have to say.
Yeah.
Candid is, I will actually tell you
What I think.
right? and then learning
Yeah.
how to do it with tact, because we are talking about there's some gruff blue collar guys that are tough.
Yeah.
And then there's the two biggest aspects that I've learned in our business that predicate someone being successful or at least surviving there long term. It's two very simple things. Are they a dynamic thinker and able to solve problems in a dynamic ability, sometimes without the instruction guide? That's a hard one.
Yeah.
And then the next one, are they resilient? Are they resilient to, if they get a bad deal pitched to them that they had nothing to do with, can they eat that punch and still show up in the next round ready to fight? And usually folks that don't make it lack one or both of those. They either have to be told A to B, this is exactly what needs to happen, protocol, don't step out of it, or it's always, well, these guys messed me over, and now and it's like, okay, I got it. Let's solve it.
Yeah.
You got to get back on the line. Let's go. So to a man, my A-lister employees are all that same. They all have those two,
Both of them, yeah.
both of those, and they've just kind of risen to the top through. You just kind of find them. You're like, you're always solving the problem. And my old CEO used to tell me, he said, don't ever come to me with a problem unless you have two solutions, potential solutions, and one of them can't cost anything. and it's like, it's hard to get there. But then he goes, because that makes me know that you actually tried to solve the problem and you put more thought and effort towards it than just complaining.
Yeah.
And so we try to hold on to that. So,
That's
okay, great. I'm glad you're complaining. What are your solutions? Well, I don't know. Well, then go away.
Go
think about it.
Yeah, go think about it.
Go think about it. Love to hear your, but otherwise they have another word for that.
Yeah. It starts with an L.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. So you came back in 99.
Yes, sir.
And so how old were you then?
I was 22 years old, I believe.
22. So you were just finished college.
Fresh out of college.
And so you competed in the hammer throw.
I competed, yes, sir. And it was funny. So my dad, I'd already told him that I wanted to come and work for him and try to help out. And he said, okay. He goes, when do you compete at nationals? I said, well, June 21st is I throw at nationals. He goes, okay. He says, we could start whenever you want as long as it's July 1. I said, okay. So I had about 9 days after college that I got to fish. And that was about it. But then I joke. I say I clocked in on July 1, 1999, and I haven't clocked out yet. So it's a lifestyle. It's something that I believe to excel in as an entrepreneur, and if it's your business, it's unfortunately I believe you don't stop. You don't clock out. You're always available. You're always
Yeah.
it's a lifestyle. And maybe other people have done it and figured it out way better than I have, but I've just been extremely hands-on.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what keeps the culture the way it is, because they know that I'll bleed with them.
Yeah. No doubt. If they see that their leader is, willing to do anything that they're having to do, then they're going to get out there
Sure.
and do it.
And my job is to set them up for success. My job is to open up, block and open up holes on the field that they get to run in the end zone. Like, I don't care if I score. I just want them to, whether it's setting up infrastructure with tools, whether it's protocol, whether it's strategy and marketing or whatever, or if I have to make calls, or if I have to visit, like whatever I need to do to help them put points on the board and move our team forward. That's the goal. And I believe they know it.
So when you came back at 22, was this a expected return as far as like from your dad's standpoint, or was that something that you're thinking, no, this is something that I think I may want to do for the rest of my life?
That's a good question. I didn't really think much about it until probably my junior year in college, because I was still enjoying the college experience. And I didn't really go to college with a real plan. I just knew I was supposed to go. And then once I was an athlete, then my goal really to be in college was to be an athlete. And then I did the school stuff because the coaches didn't bother me if I did well at school. I hate to say it is what it was, but they yelled at me when I did poorly. And then when I did well in school, they gave me like cool T-shirts and plaques, and they didn't bother me. And so I was like, okay, we're doing that.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And it was a lot less stressful going to compete on the weekends when you have all your stuff squared away. And that's when I started learning success begat success.
Yeah.
And so I learned that initially when I got to school, I said, well, I'm going to be an athlete, and I'm going to do the minimal amount of school that keeps me eligible so I could be a really good athlete and put my effort towards that. Yeah, I know it's an immature, stupid idea, but that's what I thought.
It's college, yeah.
It's college, right? But what I found was it was the opposite of that. If I put effort to do really well in school, winners get used to winning, and that just started grooving how I looked at life. And so, being prepared, being on time, being present, all of that. My events started in track and field started getting much, much, much better as my grades started getting better because I wasn't dealing with the negative consequences of kind of being a loser in this. And how do you be a loser in one thing and be a winner in the other? It doesn't really work.
Yeah, it's not. It's incongruent.
Incongruent. I wasn't equally yoked with myself.
Yeah.
And so once I started realizing that, it was almost a weird economy, because I would have thought that I only had enough effort to do one well, but then I realized when I did both well, then both were better. And I slept better because I wasn't worried about paying the tax man. I wasn't worried about having to go to tutors. I wasn't worried about all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And so that was a cool experience to learn that. But towards the end of my college career, I realized that I was more and more interested, and I saw Dad struggling and stressed because he'd been in it at that point for 19 years. Yeah. And so, I saw he was the age I am now, 49. And so, he was going, but he needed some help. So I came with the only goal of helping him.
Okay.
And I didn't know what that even looked like. And so showed up the first day, and he taught me how to calculate margin.
Okay, yeah.
Just math, and so I would just practice calculating margin on a calculator so I could go back and forth. I call street math, so you could do it quickly to know, are you making money or are you losing money?
Yeah.
And that was day one lesson. And once I figured
that out. That's a pretty good day one lesson.
It's funny because it was so ridiculous that was as simple as it was. He was like, you get that, that's where you got to have it. And so, and then it just slowly started, and I would sit in his office every day and talk to him and listen how he was on the phone with people, and just everything he would do. Hey, come over here. Look, here's what I'm doing here. Here's why. And then, okay, cool. I think I got that.
Okay.
And then about a year into it, I submitted to him a list that says, these are the things I think would move Sorinex to the next level after a year of watching. And some of them were so small and so laughably simple. It was, we should get a dedicated fax line. We should instead of taking all of our mail to the post office and weighing it and getting stamps, let's get one of those Pitney Bowes stamp things.
Yeah, a meter.
Yeah. But it was like all these things, but he was an old school guy, and so he was just doing it the way he'd always done it. So I had this list of 20 something things that I thought that could streamline us and make it better. And it was cool because he was like, these are good ideas. You're in charge of it. Do it. And so
Okay.
I had to I came to him with the ideas, but then I had to actually
find the
figure out how to
solution.
do all of them, which some of them are very simple,
Yeah.
but some of them I didn't know. I didn't know how to do X, Y, and Z. And so, or how to figure out a toll-free number and like all this stuff that I had to figure out from day one. So, and it worked, and stuff
Yeah.
worked, and not overly worked. I mean, we didn't become millionaires overnight or anything, but
Yeah.
it removed some stress.
Yeah.
And
What
so,
What was your degree in at college?
my degree was in physical education.
Okay.
So PE was a pretty stellar degree at South Carolina. It was one of the best in the nation, but pretty quickly I realized that I wasn't going to be a PE teacher.
Yeah.
So my last few semesters, I petitioned with the education department that although if I still got my educational degree and my teaching license, would they let me take some of my elective courses and do business courses?
Okay,
And
good.
which caused quite the rift in the PE department because for some reason they didn't want me to do that. And a couple of them were like, "Listen, the guy's not going to be a PE teacher. Like, let him go do something that's going to help him."
Yeah.
And so I think I won by one vote, and they let me go do that.
Good. So, did you find that helpful when you started in the business?
Honestly, no, no,
Yeah.
no, because later it would have helped, but it was so rudimentary. Like, oh, this is a business. Like, okay, well, no, being there helped.
Yeah.
Being there and learning and getting my butt kicked and winning a couple and losing them and just being in it.
Yeah.
By far was what I needed.
And
And
that's-
that being said, the Darla School of Business was like #2 business school in the nation at the time. So, I mean, it wasn't a slouch school I was going to either. But there again, I was taking rudimentary early 101 courses, and that doesn't super help as a fifth year senior.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. On the job training, I think, is hard to beat. And
almost impossible to beat.
I think when it comes to business, like I got my MBA after I'd been in practice about 5 or 6 years. And, at the Texas Tech Medical School where I got my degree, they had a MD, MBA program that you could finish your 4
Smart.
years with an MBA at the same time. And I'm so glad I didn't do that, but that I did the executive.
Because you had experience for a while, then you got to learn.
Yeah, because then you see the practical need for
Yes.
the knowledge, and it just just comes alive.
Had I thought of that later if I went back and got my master's in business, would that have helped? Probably.
Yeah.
But what I feel the most helped is specifically in the industry was just being thrown into the fire and being in it day in and day out and just learning how to read people, learning how to predict things
Those
through
are the best skills.
you just because you get burned a couple times and you go, oh, okay, well, I know the key points now that I should have seen red flags that led to this. And my dad and I would sit and talk strategy and talk understanding. And he would tell me stories from the early 80s, mid 80s. And so when we would go on deliveries together, we'd be in the car for 10 hours. And so just always picking his brain, and being in it for a long, long time is what really did it.
And was he pretty open, receptive to that?
He was very, very open to helping. I mean, to explaining everything to me. Yes, very much so. I didn't really have what you would consider a whole lot to tell him at the time, but I think I brought something new to the table, which we didn't see how that would work, but it worked very, very well. He had a good name in the business, and he had that just bulldog tenacity that he just would never quit. So that was what was built already. And then I came in with some fresh blood. I was an athlete doing exactly what our customer base was doing at the time. I was trying to become bigger and more powerful and compete for a sport. So I in a way was our top end customer base myself.
Yeah, you were the avatar.
So you're right. So I was able to talk shop with all of my customers in a way that my competitors never could because I was one of them. So I got to play both sides of the table. I would learn from my customer, and then I would go home and design the thing that helped me with what the customer just taught me. Here's the solution based on what you think that you will need. And by the way, I will also need this. And so then we would be then on the same side of the table trying to solve problems together. And that's kind of what I've always looked at is from a sales and I don't even like to say sales. I call them more solutions because all we're doing is providing solutions and people buy it. That's great. But try to pull that person on my side of the table or I get to their side of the table. So we're shoulder to shoulder trying to solve the problem versus I'm trying to, extract money from you. Like
Yeah.
that feels wrong to me. That feels like that in my opinion can't ever be the goal. The goal has to be how do I solve your problem, but I got to go alongside you to understand what that problem is.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, that's really, I think we talked about this yesterday. That's how I approach medicine,
Sure.
because it's like, yeah, I'll make money if I operate on you, but if the operation's not the best for you, you won't trust me.
Correct. And there will be
It'll be a short relationship.
a short relationship and maybe a short career.
Yeah.
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 And my goal is always to be profitable and sustainable, profitable enough to enable us to be sustainable that we get to do this for a long time.
Yeah.
I like doing this, but I can't do it for free.
Yeah.
I like to eat from time to time, it takes money to be able to continue this. And so when our customer base knows that, and our team knows that, and the people who are there, they want to do this. This is, I call them lifers. Whether they actually work there for their life is up to them. But, those are the type of attitudes I want. The guys that burn the ships behind them are like, no, this is what we're going to go do. And let's go take over the world with this thing and do the best job we possibly can and overproduce. I love people that look, and what I've always tried to do from a sports or for sporting aspect or any of my endeavors, whether it's Sorinex or whatever, it's what is the expectation level of someone of my seeming ability, and if this is what the world expects, how many data points can I put higher than that line? And so that's kind of been the mindset of if you think that we could do this, we're going to strive and push as hard as we can to have as many data points as above your expectation level as possible. And eventually that expectation level grows. And then, but that's great. That pushes us to have to grow. So that's been the mindset of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So at what point did you and your dad start talking about transitioning for you to begin to take the helm of the company?
That was probably the most stressful time of my life, and probably for him as well.
Yeah.
So my dad was a very large, very strong, very intimidating, very opinionated, only child that if there was a tyranny of will and, he was a buckle your chin strap guy because he's not going anywhere kind of guy. And although I learned a lot from that, he had his way of doing things, and there we got to the point when I'd been in it long enough and I started putting enough points on the board that were my ideas. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, I'll be honest, those ideas that were my ideas were not met with the most cheery feedback initially.
I understand that.
We're both alpha males, and there was competition, and both of us loved each other dearly. I mean, he was my best friend, my lifting partner, my hunting partner, my business partner. I mean, my mentor, my coach. I was his only family left, so I mean, we were as close as you get. But there were still two guys that had champion mindsets, and we wanted to, we almost competed with each other to who could come with the best solution. Mm-hmm. And at times I'd have to realize that I needed to back off. And because there it goes back to that, as a man, you want to know, am I good enough? And you're generally who you want to be good enough for is your dad.
Yeah.
And so I was in this weird position where I'm trying to show my dad I'm good enough by being better than him. And he's trying to show me that he is still good enough by not letting me take the reins. And so although we would talk, and it was so interesting, he would and how it finally basically came to a head. He was getting older. He had been through cancer, and so the writing was on the wall. He was 60-ish at the time, and and he would tell me, he's like, I need you to step up as a leader. I need you to step up as a leader. And then one day we just stopped, and I said, if I'm supposed to step up as a leader, then who's the leader? Are you the leader or am I the leader? And I'm okay either way. I said, I didn't come here to be the leader. I didn't come here to rewrite history. I came here to help you and reduce stress. but the writing is on the wall is I'm probably going to be around longer than you will. So we could either work together to transition me if you want me to be that leader, and I'm okay with doing it because that's probably the smartest move for our survival, I will. I said, but the bad part about that means is I probably need to be the leader then, and it's going to be real hard for you. And he kind of looked at me like, no one's ever talked to me like this. And I said, and he goes, well, what do you mean? And I go, it might mean I veto something you say sometime. I say, are you okay with that? I said, I would never do it out of spite. I would never do it to just be a jerk. I said, but if I'm the leader, but everything still goes through you and you get final say, then we're playing house.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to see it. And everyone's going to lose respect for me and they're going to lose respect for you. And I'm okay with however we do it. But we have to be united on whatever we decide. And man, that was the next 2 to 3 years of, because you have a guy that legitimately, physically had one of the strongest hand grips in the world, and his hand grip was on his baby, which was Sorinex. And the person he loved more than anyone on earth, he knew he needed to release it to. And I'm looking at, they say like if before someone finds God, a kid finds God, God is their dad. And for me, it was. He was bigger. He was everything that a man would want to be. Just like, he was looked like a giant, big Tom Selleck, that was cool and everyone liked him. And he was super smart, super funny. You're just like, man, that's like my hero. So to tell your hero, like, I need the cape. And I don't want the cape, but probably it's better for all of us if I go ahead and try the cape on often, because one day probably the cape isn't going to fit you anymore, and it probably makes sense for all of us that I wear it. Boy,
Yeah.
that was hard. That was hard. And then we got into a situation where we moved buildings, and so our office was together, desks beside each other during this period of time in a 10 by 10 room for 3 years.
Whew.
So every phone call I'm on, he's from almost me to you, just listening. And you're just like, man, it's just hard.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And it's just hard of going like, okay, I'm under the microscope, and I have a feeling I might be seen as this young prince trying to take over the king. And that's not what I want. I just want this thing to work. But I'm also trying to show you that I could do it. And so it was an extremely stressful time. I mean, both of us were, at time, we would go sometimes a week and not talk. We would be so mad at each other. And then, one of us would say, hey, would you take a look at this thing? And he's like, yeah, I would probably do this and this and this. I was like, yeah, I would too. And then that was how we'd make up, would be through a problem, you know, and then one of us would go, well, that's a good idea, to the other guy. And then that was like, hey, we're good. And then, yeah, I appreciate, no, thanks for looking at that for me. Yeah, no problem. And then we'd see each other in the gym. He'd be bench pressing. I'd walk over and spot him. And then,
That's guy love.
it's guy love. It's that how it works, right? I'd squat, and I'd be over there pushing, and I know he'd be watching. I'd throw a couple extra plates in there because I know he'd watch it, and then he'd walk by, and he would just stop. And he'd stop enough where I could see him in the mirror, and he'd just watch. And little head nod and walk off. And I'm going, okay, we're all right again. We're all right. And then it would go back to normal for a few months or a few weeks or whatever, and then something would happen. And then it was just that turbulence. And my wife, Leslie, walked me through it, because as a son, as an only child of an only child, that's a hard one, because, you feel like if your lifeline, you're all the things I said he was, if that's a shaky relationship, you don't know what's going on. There were so many nights I went to bed with the pit of my stomach torn out, and just like, why am I doing this? I can't do this anymore. This is like, and the team saw it, and they're just like, oh my gosh, we thought you were going to kill each other, and you get two big bears in a room, and there's like, you were like, seriously, we thought y'all were like actually going to go to blows. And we hit everything in the room but each other at times. And it was just like, and you say things that you regret saying, and you do all these things that you're not proud of, and it's just when the stress is turned up, and if the business isn't doing as well as you want, that pressure is even higher, and it's
Yeah.
just that someone feels like someone's just cranking the screws down on you, and but finally we were able to get through it, and things got better and better, and then a couple times he was just like, "You're doing a really good job." He's like, you, and then probably, 4 or 5 years before he passed, I remember him telling me one day, he's like, "You know everything I know now." He's like, you could, he goes, I don't worry anymore. If I'm gone tomorrow, he said, "You got this. You've taken it further than we ever thought would happen. You got it." And so that was a nice one to finally get,
Yeah.
as a guy, as a son,
Yeah.
and it's nice to get it when you could enjoy it for a little while, and
Yeah.
but he and we'd have talks, all the time. I mean, the day he passed, he was sitting in my office on my couch like he did most other days, and it's still hard at times because then at that time we're pretty successful and I'm running full speed, and he's slowing down. He's in his 70s,
Yeah.
and he's getting a little out of touch with the day in and day out, and which is fine, which is what I wanted him to do. Is I
Yeah.
told him, I said, "Pops," I said, "Don't feel like you have to like hit the 60-hour weeks anymore." I said, "You're 70 years old." I said, "Just letting you know, when I'm 70, I hope you're still around." I said, "But in case you're not, I'm telling you, I won't be here 60 hours a week when I'm 70. So you won. You won. You
Yeah.
outworked me." And I had to literally say that. I was like, I said, "Believe me, I'll be doing something else. I'll be fishing. I won't be here all the time." I said, "So if it's ever a question of who pushed harder, you won." But we had to even go over those conversations, as we got more successful and I started bringing different things, and I got confident enough to start bringing new things to the business. There was those days where he's like, "You think you're so smart, you think this and that," but I knew what that was. That was an emotional side of a man that was realizing his own mortality and realizing that who was, he was Godzilla walking around, and he realized he wasn't anymore, and that was hard for him to take.
Yeah.
And so there's these little outbursts at times that would come, and I get defensive, and I go, "Hold on, like, you've never been in his shoes before, and have enough of an emotional quotient to realize that he's going through some things right now."
Yeah.
And but I convinced him. I said, "Hey, listen," I said, "Yeah, we might have a 5-lane highway of a business right now." I said, "But you're not set up to do what I'm doing currently in making this 5-lane highway." I said, "But I can never go back and do what you did. I can't go with the machete and cut the path, the first path." I said, "So you feeling like we're competing," I said, is erroneous, because I can never go back and do what you did, nor should I ever need to. You've gotten us past that part. So you're creating that path with a machete that turned into a footpath, that turned into a blacktop road, that turned into a 2-lane road, that turned into like all those processes. Now we have something burning here. This is great. And I get it. You can't do this part, but I can't do your part, and we don't need to. That's why the good part of this lineage of our story of 46 years, you played an amazingly, without you, there is no me. And hopefully all I'm doing is trying to make this, while you're still here, I want you to see what this can become, and I want you to be proud of me and proud of the company. That's all I'm trying to do. Mm-hmm. And we had those conversations. And so he was finally able to be a bit exalted, a bit like, okay, I got the respect for what this is, because, that was a time that on the world stage, our business started getting bigger. So I was getting accolades. I was getting, and I think there was a little bit of that, the pride,
Sure. Yeah.
It was funny. Someone told me, they're like, "I know he gets on you directly, but to everyone else, he brags on you." It's just like, it's like, well, that'd be nice if I got some of that. But you gotta go, okay, so that's how he really feels. Okay.
Yeah.
But to me, it was still like there was a little bit of competitiveness, a little bit of,
Yeah. Well, you both were athletes.
it's just built in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't, there wasn't, I mean, until he was in his 70s, there wasn't a day that I was lifting that he wasn't trying to outlift me. Like, it
Wow.
was in there, and he would do stuff like someone would be lifting in the gym, and he'd walk up to me, he's like, I need to try that. And I go, and I look at him, he goes, I'll die, won't I? And I go, yeah, if you try that, I'll probably just keel over and die, right? And I go, yeah, don't do that. He goes, really? And he was still just testing. Like, he was like, if I gave him the go ahead, he was going to do it. I was like, don't do that. He was like, okay. I could have done it though. I was like, I know you probably could have, so it was like managing a big, strong child at times. But, it was so hard. And I remember multiple people telling me, they're like, a second generation business to grow is so, so hard. And yes, I could live through that and say, yes, I am the most proud I've probably been of anything is that we got through those times together and we came out on the other end together still. And that was something, and I had people tell me inside the business, outside the business, saw it. They saw all of it happening. And I had people tell me, they're like, well, you and Pops are going to have the nuclear fight one day. Like, you are going to have to, like, not physically, but it's going to have to be the line in the sand is drawn and all this other stuff. And I would tell them, I said, no, that's not happening. And they're like, you're going to have to if the business is going to survive. You can't have the two major powers there fighting.
Yeah.
And I said, I will walk away from this because I feel he is so linked to this entity, this business, and this is his other baby. I said, if he and I said, so those are the two things he cares about is this business and me and then this business. But if we fought to that level, he would lose me and potentially lose. And I said, I would be in a way killing him. And I was like, I will not do that. I said, I will limp through with this thing barely surviving in order not to have that happen. And thankfully, we were able to work through it till we started getting our speed under us again and things started occurring. And to me, that the thing I'm most proud of ever in business, that we got through those times and we got through there together. We were able to celebrate in the winner's circle together. And to the day he died, we were still strategizing the future. We were still happy about, being together. And he sat in my office that day and took a workout and then went home and sat in his chair and passed away.
Wow.
And so that was obviously extremely hard. But the first thing I thought upon finding him was we won. That's the first thing I thought, because the impossibility of growing a business from nothing, having no money, super amount of stress, no business ideas, no business classes, no business lessons, and somehow fighting it 40-something years and building a world-class brand while transitioning to another generation with two guys that believed they were right. and still at the end of it, we still enjoyed sitting in each other's office and talking about life and talking about kids and hunting and the business and everything, that we were able to keep that through literally the last day. That's probably one of the things I'm most proud of in my life.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's I miss him. I mean, but it's crazy. In some ways, him not being here is really, really hard. But in some ways, it's like it's easier.
Yeah.
I hate to even admit that, but he set the path of what needs to occur, and we honor him, constantly, within the company and the guys who are around him and stuff like that. But it's like, I think he felt like he'd been here long enough and set us up for success, and he burned all of his gas. Yeah. So that's where we are now. But now I'm kind of faced with, okay, great. I'm the sole owner and the sole whatever. Like, what I say goes, and it's not necessarily the position I want. It's nice, I guess. Maybe not. And then you think, is there a third generation? Third generation probability of success is, from what I understand, markedly lower than a second generation.
Yeah.
I think probably why it worked in the second generation was because we hadn't made it when I was
Right.
right, so
You saw what it
I
took
had to
to
come
build.
up in that, and my fear is my kids haven't. And so, do I wish they get in it? Sure,
Hmm.
we'll see. They're
Yeah.
still young. We'll see. If they have the passion that I do, I don't think they would survive without the passion that I had for it and the interest. I think it's too hard. I think any business for multi-generation is too hard. If this third, fourth, or fifth generation doesn't truly have respect for those that came before them, nor the
Hmm.
passion similar to who the founder was. I think it's too hard. I believe. Maybe it won't be. Maybe by the time the kids get older, it'll
Yeah.
be a plug and play deal. I just have never experienced that.
What, just thinking about that process, what would you do or could you do now or in the future
Hmm.
with, your kids, to maybe instill some of that understanding or that
Sure.
passion?
That's a great question. I'm literally going through that in my mind every day now, and I'm putting things into place. And I guess the more that I think about it, I have put things into place unknowingly, and that's involving them in my crazy life. Whether it's the people, the extraordinary people that come in and out of our life because of
Hmm.
the business, having, we don't shelter them from that. When people come into town, they whether it's coaches or athletes or whoever it is, they become friends with them as well. So I'm trying to show them that this life could be really, really rich,
Hmm.
and exciting, but it all kind of comes back to how we go about our daily work. And now, talking with them more, just like I was as a kid. When you're driving in the car, you talk about the importance of that we just won University of Florida, and what this does, and what we designed, what was really cool that we designed. And my oldest son just got into exercise and really wanted to lift weights with me a week ago. So this is super new, and now
Yeah.
he's like, "Hey, Daddy, can we go work out?" And it's like, oh, that's what I've waited for my whole life. And so now we get to do it, and he's learning it, and he's like, Daddy, I'm getting muscles. I was like, "You're getting muscles?" Yeah. I was like, "Yeah, man, in 4 days, you're getting tons of muscles." But that he cares. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, goes back to that passion. You're showing those passions that I remember having at 14 and going, oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember thinking my dad was Zeus and going, I want to turn his head. I want respect from him when I walk into the gym. I'd see him light up when I'd come into the gym. And I get to train my son now. And then my littlest boy is like, "Yeah, I'll work out with you guys." And he plays around and goofs around and whatever, but just building in that side of it. And I think if there's interest and love and at least respect for it at that level, we have a chance.
Yeah.
And if it's just, "Hey, I don't have anything to do. I got out of college, or I'm trying to figure out a job. Can I come to work?" Sure, we'll do that. It'll be low level. And if there's a fire that's built under one of them to come do it, sure, but it's not going to be an easy path. It's not going to be an automatic promotion. It's
Hmm.
going to be, you're going to have to fight your way to the top, like I had to do, because I don't think I don't want to put them in a position of a lack of respect or a lack of effectiveness with the team, and put the team in a bad position because of the boss's son.
Yeah.
But we homeschool now, so that was one of the reasons, because I get to go all over the country and do amazing things with amazing people. So I want to take my kids with me. Let's take
Yeah.
a Friday off and let's go, install University of Alabama's football weight room and learn how to work hard and learn how to tighten bolts and figure out stuff that's level, and do, like I call it, street math. Just do fast math and estimate things and talk to customers and talk to people and know how to solve problems, know how to you show up on a job site and everything's wrong, and guess what, you still got to get the job done. So let's think divergently and learn how to solve things. And so I believe if I could do that, they'll hopefully find a value in it. And if they're good at it and they find a value and a passion in it, then would it be a dream of mine to have a third generation? Of course. Of course. I would love for Sorinex, we'll be 46 years. I'd love for us to be a 100-year company one day.
Hmm.
It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
But the probability is pretty low. I realize that. I've had to kind of stare that in the face and realize that I want to make sure that I don't put too much pressure on them where they feel like this is their lot in life, regardless of what happens. And if one of them wants to be an archaeologist, crap, I got to go and work at Sorinex. That wouldn't be fair to them.
Yeah.
So it's still to be determined. I'm still kind of fighting through it myself and trying to decide, to be a son and a dad at the same time. And living both of that side of it, it's a weird dynamic. And now I'm no longer a son really, and from that regard, from a business side, and I'm having to take up that new role and understand what that means. And it's weird thinking I'm old man Sorin now.
Yeah,
instead of the kid, I'm now like, oh, you're an elder statesman. It's a weird feeling.
Yeah.
I'm sure with you with an iconic dad. That's a big shadow. It's a big shoe to fill. And I never expected to fill Richard Sorin's shoes or to break out of that shadow. I thought the shadow was too vast. And I feel like I've been able to. And he told me, which was awesome. He was like, yeah, you're better than I ever was in everything. And it's like,
yeah. It's
like,
the ultimate compliment.
Yeah, I just want to be half as good. But when he says it, you're just like, oh. But the confidence that builds and the kind of hole in your heart that gets filled, and then it allows you to kind of go and look at the rest of the world and go, okay, well, that box is checked. All right, now what can I do? I don't have to fight for that position anymore. I don't have to fight for that question anymore. Going back to, am I good enough? Yes, I am now. I know that. I'm okay with that. I'm not saying it's elite. I'm not saying whatever, but I don't question that anymore. And that's a relief. My wife tells me that, my kids, and again, that doesn't mean I stop or that I'm better than, but I've finally been able to go, okay, you're okay. You're okay. And then that's a whole new chapter in life, because for first 46, 47, 48 years of your life, it's the question. And what do I do to fill that hole of not knowing? And it's weird. It's weird but it's freeing. And
it is.
But I want to make sure that I don't put so much pressure on my kids where maybe that question is never answerable for them.
Yeah, man, great stuff. So I was going to ask you, and I think I know the answer. Was it worth it?
Yes. I've said it before. I wouldn't want to have to do it again.
Yeah.
But it was very, very well worth it. I am blessed beyond what I deserve. I'm blessed beyond anything I ever thought would happen in my life. The things I get to do, the people I get to meet, the experiences I get to have, the insight that I get to have. It doesn't make sense for a C student kid, only child from Irmo, South Carolina, who didn't know what he was going to do in life. It doesn't make sense. And so I look at it every day and just go, really? This is the life I get to live? Like, a lot of it had to do with a lot of hard work. But a lot of it, people say, well, you deserve it. And I don't deserve anything of that nature. And because if that's the case, then it's an economy. And that means that everyone who has ever worked as hard or harder than me should have what I have or more. And unfortunately, that's not the case. Yeah. And so I realize that I've been blessed far beyond what I've done. So was it worth it? Yes. Yeah. But I don't know if it'd be tough enough to do a 2X. I wouldn't want to have to. Yeah. But I guess if I have to, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Bert, I've thoroughly enjoyed this.
Likewise.
Man, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Honor. It's been a lot of fun talking to you and learning from you and your wife. And you guys are doing it right. And I've learned so much this past weekend. And thank you for your mentorship.
Yeah, well, you're very welcome.
You're welcome.
Pleasure's mutual.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and stay tuned for more discussions about generational business and just relationships in general.